it was a really interesting talking about equity and equitable estoppel. And she's claiming that even though Wade Robson did not remember and figure it out in his head of what allegedly Michael back in the 90s, in point of fact, something to the effect that we'll both go to jail if you ever tell anybody. Plus, she pointed out that Michael also hired and paid for an attorney to represent Robson at the grand jury, for which Robson never appeared, which I'd never heard that stated before. But her point is, basically, we will have no limits. Anybody can claim I was molested no matter how many years later. And Howard Weitzman did make an appearance. He looked rather frail. He stated he was appearing for the Michael Jackson estate, and then he let the younger attorney speak. And there is no estoppel. There is no limits to when you can bring an action. Then, in effect, there are no limits. The only time this kind of a case is allowed is in probate. And he was arguing the offense does not follow the property. At some point, the property of the decedent is free of accusations and any ramifications for collection of money for alleged wrongdoing. And Judge Beckloff appeared to me to be listening very intently to both sides. But at the end, what I noticed of this argument about equitable estoppel and privity is a whole legal concept that you almost need to study in law school to understand where the limits of that is. But these two issues kept crossing, and I noticed at one point Howard Weitzman put his hand over his mouth like this, and he very slightly shook his head negatively as Judge Beckloff was looking at him. I'm not saying he was giving Judge Beckloff a hand signal, but it could be interpreted that way. What I want to communicate is that I don't think having a camera in the courtroom today would have done anything different than what you can read on the court record. You have to understand estoppel and equitable estoppel, and these are exceptions to the exceptions in the law. Generally, if a person's dead, you can't sue them anymore, except in probate, as Howard Weitzman's younger partner pointed out. I happened to sit next to somebody I thought was a reporter. Turned out they were working for Howard Weitzman's team. And somehow, the young guy turned around and faced the man sitting next to me as he passed him a brief note to remind him of something. They kept arguing 9103 and things to do with the law, but I believe when this is settled today, they were working for Howard Weitzman's team. And somehow, the young guy turned around and faced the man sitting next to me as he passed him a brief note to remind him of something. And things to do with the law, but I believe when this is settled, Beckloff is going to issue an order denying Robson's request, and it's still not done. Because when we stepped out in the hallway, and Pearl Jr. was there, Twiggy was there, and I was there, as well as several other reporters, there was room for other people in the courthouse, but I didn't see any Michael Jackson fans there today. Twiggy got a very good photo, and I think it's a very telling photo, and she'll probably upload it before you'll see this video. Well, Howard Weitzman grabs the opposing attorney, the guy in the gray suit. He grabs him by the arm and smiles as if, isn't this a great thing? Everything's fine. Now, these are up to him, but I didn't quite catch what Twiggy caught on her photograph. And we'll splice that in here. I think this is all about attorney's fees. And as I said a year ago, And many times since, I think when it's all done, all this will amount to is attorney's fees that will be paid for by the Michael Jackson estate. They will settle out of court. And when will they do that? I think right before it goes to the U.S. Supreme Court. Why? Because if they settle out of court, Marzano and all our attorney's fees, and this is the question I asked Marzano. I said, if the judge rules against you, are you done? She said, no, we're going to appeal it to the appellate court. And I said, and if they rule against you, what are you going to do? Then we'll go to the state Supreme Court. And I said, and if they rule against you, where will you go? And her word was, we will take it to the Supreme Court of the United States. And it's at that point, when you prepare to go to the Supreme Court, I think there'll be an out-of-court settlement. And with the out-of-court settlement, all the allegations are left in a cloud. And both sides agree to just stop fighting in court. But Marzano's fees will all get paid out of the estate. That is always part of a settlement, and there will be some money for Robson besides. That's my opinion, based on what I saw today, which conforms to what I've said everything before this. But it did appear as if both sides in the courtroom, on the record, it did appear both sides were really going at it knuckles to knuckles. But when they stepped out in the hallway, that one photograph Twiggy got, I think, spoke volumes. It was worth more than all the words said in the courtroom. I can't prove that both sides are working in cahoots with each other, and it wouldn't be journalistically appropriate for me to say that's true, because I don't know that's true. But that photograph, look at that photograph. I mean, sure, opposing counsels always appear to battle for their client's sake. You know, they give a great whoop-de-doo in front of the judge of how we're really fighting for our client. And then they go out and have a beer together. That's typical. That's not unusual at all. But in this case, neither Michael Jackson was in court, nor was Robson in court. The other thing I asked that shut Marzano down, she was happy to talk about certain things, but when I asked her if Robson and Safechuck were communicating with each other, she had no comment and was not going to go into that issue. William Wagner from downtown Los Angeles, for all you people that still care. I'm William Wagner for On Second Thought. I wonder what Twiggy has to say.